Hey guys, welcome back to Pillbox Movies. I'm Hank, and today we're going to be watching the 1960 Bengali film Devi, or The Goddess. This is a film by Bengali director Satyajit Ray. The film stars Sumitra Chatterjee, Chahabi Biswas, and Sharmila Tagore as the titular Devi, or Goddess. Satyajit Ray is considered one of the great filmmakers of the world. He's known for the Apu trilogy, as well as Charulata and The Music Room, Jalsajar, which has been featured previously on this channel. Yeah, I'm excited to watch another movie by him, so let's do it. And before we get started, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And you get a sense here, as in The Music Room, of how Rai likes to edit his films towards towards rhythm and towards percussion, and also the variability he puts on different camera perspectives, like focusing down on the congregants or focusing up on the fireworks. The fireworks are also featured in The Music Room as well.
বড়দিনের ছুটি অবধি রোজ একখানা করে কেমন
আর যদি ভুলে যাই
তবে ক্ষমা নাই
শাস্তি কি শাস্তি
To wonder. Already a spicy young couple.
কি হলো
কেন যাচ্ছ
You can actually kind of see the influence that Renoir has on Rai. I'm thinking specifically about the penchant that Renoir has for reframing subjects of pushing in and out within the shot, which isn't necessarily uncommon, but it is something in Renoir, and you see it here in the works of Rai.
তোমার বাবা যদি যেতে না দেন ওর যাবার আমাকে ছাড়া একদম চলে না
মা বলিয়ে মা কি রয়েছো চক্ষু কর্ণ খেয়ে ডাকি বারে বারে মা বলিয়ে মা কি রয়েছো
I see. So Biswas is playing the infirm father, and similarly to his character in The Music Room, he kind of retreats into the upper floors. He doesn't engage in the lower rungs or the more common world anymore. I always loved it. I love this in seeing The Music Room, how slow these pans or these tracking shots are of Rai. He really loves to bathe in the atmosphere of the worlds he creates. I wonder if the sounds of these pigeons, if birds will be a motif in this, or a symbol in this movie.
তোমাকে যে কাজের ভার দিয়েছি তাতে অসন্তুষ্ট হওনি তোমা কি আর করবে বলো এই বুড়ো ছেলের একটা আবদার না হয় রাখলে
কাকিমা কি জাদু করেছো তা তুমিই জানো আমার হাতে খাবে না নাইবে না কিচ্ছু
And already we get early suggestions of supposedly Doyamoyee's kind of like spell, her way of captivating men. And it's a trait that's like been assigned to her, that's designated to her, that she's not necessarily doing intentionally, that she's not actively doing, but other people attribute this power to her. It's a really beautiful small exchange. I'm trying to think of what I've seen of like Music Room or The Coward, but like that small exchange, so much is communicated, and what's more, it's like left so simple. There's like no ornamentation to it. There's barely any kind of like backstory or artifice or contextualization to it. It's beautiful in the simplicity of just placing Tagore and this little child opposite each other and letting them like play off of each other and mystify each other and delight each other.
তুই এলে ঘর আবার আলো হয়ে উঠল এই বুড়ো বয়সে নতুন করে যখন এমন মা পেলাম
This is such an interesting relationship. This is a really interesting quality of Rai films that you wouldn't necessarily see in other directors. I don't know about other Bengali directors, but he certainly depicts characters in bed more than other directors you would think of. Like, for me, it's like him and Fassbinder. What other directors really observe characters in the bedroom, especially on the bed, as much as Rai does? But it kind of gives a different dimension to his the kind of what's going on? Is he having a premonition, a nightmare? To the sense of scale he has when shooting subjects, that he shoots them on different levels, from like the bottom rungs to the highest heights of heaven. Rai's been watching some Long. This is a famous chandelier from the Music Room again. He likes that image of the chandelier. Premonition for disaster.
এতদিন কেন বলিসনি মা আমি স্বপ্নযোগে আদেশ পেয়েছি ইনি দেবীর অবতার
And she immediately rejects it. She already knows that there's only disaster down this route. I think this is a powerful kind of realization of like this intensity of feeling. Oh, just the claw mark. Gonna pause for a second. Pause. I think this is a wonderful kind of a potent realization of a kind of dynamic that's been brewing underneath in terms of her relationship with her father-in-law, in terms of her relationship with her nephew. That in both these cases, they kind of take her on as kind of like a mutated relationship. They view her as like a substitute or a cipher for many different kind of like female relationships that they wish to fulfill. She is at once a daughter-in-law to Biswas's character, to Kalikinkar, as well as being a mother to him, adopting the role of both his dead mother, but also his dead wife, who passed before she entered into their household. And similarly, the nephew has kind of like a distorted view of her, or relationship with her, where he views her as a mother that's not quite as disjointed as is the case with Kalikinkar, but he's morphed her relationship from being an aunt into a mother, and so it makes sense in terms of the fuller realization of these kind of muddied identifiers that the next step is that Kalikinkar would identify her with a female embodiment of a female incarnation of a goddess. It's oh boy, it's already weird stuff going on. And she's been surrounded by all these old men, these old worshipful men. That supplication will turn into aggression and madness. And we again get the sense, like as in the Music Room, this place where Biswas's character has gathered around all these elder men, this consecrated, concentrated room where he's affixed all of his hopes and all of his desires. And similarly, as in to the music room featured kind of a culminating performance by a female dancer. And here's another moment of fixation, of obsession within this cramped room.
খোকা কই?
আছে কোথাও সে কি আসে এদিক পানে কাণ্ড
Was Kuka the name of Biswas's son in the music room too? Yeah, it was. I mean, they're only a couple years apart. It makes sense. Yeah, there's this really interesting relationship going on of characters like obsessing over relations or people who aren't there at the sacrifice of the ones that are right in front of them. This is even true of Doya, that Biswas's character is obsessed with an Uma or a mother character or a Kali at the expense of his relationship with his son, and he even ignores he ignores the beggar outside singing, who is similarly entreating a mother figure. His son obsesses over a relationship with him. Prasad obsesses over a relationship with his father at the sacrifice of his relationship with his son, and even Doyamoyee obsesses over Umaprasad. Frankenstein. Just gotta bring him to the goddess. That kid better not be healed. This is one of those paradoxical situations where you're like, the utilitarian good would be for the child to be healed, but it's only going to cause more trouble for everybody involved. I love the bell sound. I don't think that's sanitary. This is not the way you want to come home to find your wife. Like Odysseus returning from the Odyssey, things are not as he left them at home. Again, this beautiful unspoken exchange through them, non-verbal exchange. But this time at a distance, with this cruel context. The simplicity is there, but your heart is heavy from the situation that it's under.
আপনি পাগল হয়ে গিয়েছেন কি বললেন আপনি পাগল হয়ে গিয়েছেন বাবা
No, he's going to be convinced by the healing of the child.
মস্তিষ্কের বিকৃতি ঘটেছে এই সমস্তই আপনার স্বপ্নের পরিণাম
In a way, oh dear, I don't want to get into this, but in a way, this is focusing on the same kind of like shared hysteria or delusion as, let's say, Dieter Evan Hansen. That this family has as roots a number of entangled and unresolved conflicts. And so it chooses an avatar to receive the crux of these pains and of these crises, and to have that avatar either absolve those crises or sacrifice itself in order to absolve them.
কিন্তু দয়াময়ী দেবী এ আমি কিছুতেই বিশ্বাস করব না। আমাকে যেতে দিন বাবা, বাধা দিয়ে কোনো ফল হবে না। এই পূজা আমি কিছুতেই মা কানু আমার চোখ খুলেছে।
It's a bad time for a coincidence. But as I said before, one way or the other, they would have made their minds up about this already. This event, whether it be a miracle, whether it be a banality, is not strong enough to shock them out of their shared hysteria. This is one of those things where I'm like, is this a production error, or is this intentional to the presentation? The boy was moving and slightly shifting his eyes previously, so is that just like poor acting on the kid's part, or was that like is that these elder men like retroactively refitting the narrative to say that he was dead the entire time when he was unconscious or when he was weak, and they all noticed that, they all registered that, but now that the miracle has been completed, they are retrofitting their memory to suit the narrative that he was dead the entire time. I love all the images of the dead matriarch in the background photos. They're in the back of Umaprasad's room, and Umaprasad and Doyamoyee's old room. They're in Kalikinkar's room. Similarly to the portrait of Roy's father in the music room in Jalsajar. Just these little hints as to where these characters are coming from, where their grief is coming from, where their hysteria is coming from. Just the underlying message of who is feeding into these belief systems that they hold. This beautiful distance we get of them in the bedroom, just silhouetted, a wonderful portrait of their relationship that still has this intimacy to it, but has this divide, this space between them that's been left by the trauma, the discomfort of this event. I love the version of this that is a like a passion play. Like, this is the Passion of Joan of Arc, that we are literally seeing the same trial, the same exhaustion, the same process that Doyamoyee's going through, that Jean went through a ritual of exaltation as opposed to a ritual of condemnation. That's a really good transformation of these like same kind of cinematic narratives. Go girl, live your life. Girl. You've been indoctrinated into a cult in which you have been canonized. She has. She's exhausted. She's been repeatedly pelted with this message, battered with this message. It's true. All these are kind of like cultish practices. It's really interesting to see this this understanding and this behavior played out in a film in the 60s. Of course, cults existed before the 60s, cults would emerge in the 60s, and cults would exist after the 60s, but I think it is a kind of prescience or inherited knowledge that Rai has, whether culturally being party or being witness to many kind of like cultic formulations in his time. He's reflecting that in his filmmaking, and that's of course that kind of like cultic hysteria. That kind of hysteria is present in the music room as well. Characters that are increasingly isolated, that are increasingly paranoid or locked away, formulating more and more extreme and impossible worldviews. I really love the music room. The more and more I kind of reflect back on it, I think it really is like a narrative for art lovers, for art makers and art lovers, that Roy has like this one tether to the world, his son, and at the absence of his son, the only thing that tethers him to the world is his relationship to his jalsajar, to his music room, this like relationship to something that is static, that is dead or non-living, that can never hurt you, that you can engage with as a voyeur, as an appreciator, and that you can dictate the message of without it ever challenging you, without it ever turning its eyes towards you, without it ever turning away from you. It's a really powerful presentation of an aesthetic, a sublimely aesthetic and harrowingly aesthetic view of the world. Aesthetic rapture and aesthetic nihilism. And similarly, in terms of the idea of the avatar or the proxy, like Kalikinkar was unwilling or passively unwilling to help the beggar outside of his mansion, and the beggar, for whatever like reasons of social decorum or policing, couldn't interact with that household, but both of them are able to like interact with each other through the proxy of Kali, of the goddess. And this becomes their shared interaction, their shared culture, because they can't interact with each other, whether because of their caste system, because of their classes, for whatever reason, they can't touch each other, but they can touch each other through this shared culture, but this shared culture being a delusion. It's a really weird, powerful interaction. She looks exhausted. She really looks like Maria Falconetti. Just all these people sapping the strength, the resolve out of this poor woman. This poor woman who's been made an avatar, who just like stares blindly, who can't even focus anymore. She has beautiful eyes. Tagore has beautiful, beautiful eyes for this. Just the suggestion of her eyes, like they're so big, just seeing where they go back and forth, where they like avert, where they avert direct contact, where they're entreating. It's they are very, very subtle, suitable eyes, supple eyes for this kind of narrative and for this kind of character. And once again, one of the few interactions of equity she shares with another character that isn't like based on like positions of power or hierarchy is the one that she shares with Koka. Just a very simple shot, reverse shot. It's so beautiful. You can see how much she like cares for this child. How all of this is born out of a paranoid manipulation of that care. Because I don't think she fears her father, her father-in-law. I don't think she fears these people so much as this is born out of a care that she has. She wants to be good. She wants to be mother. She wants to care for her father-in-law. She wants to care for people. And it's been twisted so maddeningly out of her control. Her care has been made a weapon against her.
তুমি কি মাটির পুতুল যে কথা বলো না কই দেখি প্রতিমা
See a servant in music room? It's a wonderful little tracking shot. I actually wonder if that was 2 shots cut together. But again, showing kind of like the continuity when he can help it, when he can construct it, that Ray and that Renoir like, the ability to string 2 thoughts, like 2 camera distances together in 1 shot. It's really nice. Where else are you going to see a wide shot transform into a close-up or a medium shot through a pan? She is so beautiful. Sharmila Tagore is just so beautiful. I wonder if as the film proceeds, she'll, like, filmically, narratively lose her voice. She'll just speak less and less as the film progresses until she becomes an entire mute. And in that way, she'll become like the effigies, the statues of the gods that they drown at the Durga Puja.
She's only 17.
Oh! If she does, it's because she's 17.
সমস্ত জিনিসটাই তো ওর উপরে আরোপ করা হয়েছে। আর যিনি করেছেন তাকে বাধা দেওয়ার তো কোনো শক্তিও নেই।
জিনিসটাকে তুমি এত জোর গলায় মিথ্যে বলছো, সেটাকে প্রতিরোধ করবার মতো শক্তি বা সৎসাহস তোমার নেই। আর সংস্কার বিরুদ্ধ কোনো কিছু করতে যাওয়ার মানেই চোট খাওয়া। এটা নিয়ম, এটা হবি।
It seems like such a cliche message to be told, but really thinking about the generation that Rai was coming from, him being like a first generation of filmmakers in his own right, seeing the disappearance of the zamindar class in India, seeing various cultural transformations that were happening in the time. There's this kind of like reluctance to say that force is necessary to combat these old traditions, and that these old traditions can be easily integrated and incorporated into the new society bloodlessly without conflict. And that's seemingly the approach that Doyamoyee has taken. But in battling this incarnation, this belief in the goddess here, it's similarly the battle of these old traditions, these old mores that the previous generation held, that it holds to the point of prejudice, that it holds to the point of stupidity or combativeness or reluctance to change. And the young people, the people who want to bring about health and vitality and choices and agency to its youth, have to be willing to fight against those old mores, even if they belong to their parents, even if it belongs to their religion. They have to fight the things that are constricting them to death, that are choking them to death. You're literally going to see the new generation choked out by the beliefs of the old generation. The willful delusion of this old man will kill his grandson. I mean, the same can be said of Music Room as well. The same narrative being played out of the old holding on too hard to its past life, its past luxuries, its past comforts, and it will let its children die out as a result.
Baba?
It's a funny transformation. He wants a relationship with his aunt again, in a way, his father wants to provide that too by giving him the water of the Devi, but it's not his aunt anymore. It is the avatar. It is the goddess. It is the old instead of the new, instead of his actual aunt. And so it's this funny. It's these two identities doing battle inside of Doyamoyee. This split identity that she has to be oblige the old generation, is she has to oblige herself, but she can't hold the two simultaneously because she's not a goddess and she's not capable of being two things simultaneously.
যাও খোকাকে ওর কোলে যাও খোকার অসুখ মা
So is she Ma? Is she Kali? Is she Doyamoyee? Is she Auntie?
তোমার কাছে ওকে নিয়ে এসেছি
It's so hard that she's
চরণামৃত সেবনের আয়োজন করো
fucking 17 years old.
তোমার কাছেই রইল
Disgusting. Why are they doing this to her?
তুমি একে নিয়ে যাবে?
আমি ওকে আনতে দিতুম না তোর কাছে। জ্বরের ঘরে ডাকলো, একবার নয়। কাকিমা, কাকিমা, কাকিমা। আর আমি সত্যি মিথ্যে জানি না।
Beautiful.
তুই ওকে সারিয়ে দিতে?
It's so beautiful. The truth is beautiful. Just allow the truth to wash over you. Be powerless, be helpless, and you'll gain back your control.
আজকে রাতটা আমার কাছে থাক।
কাল ফিরিয়ে দিবি তো? কাঁদিস না ছোট বোন।
I love that she speaks to her like this. Sister-in-law. Speak to her like a human being. Speak to her like your sister. You really get this image of the older generation, of Viswas's generation, as like these vampires sucking out all of the vitality of the next generation of the youth. Nobody's at the house anymore, except for the pigeons.
মা দয়াময়ীর কোলে তুলে দিয়েছিলাম তার কৃপা তার চরণামৃত আপনিই তাকে হত্যা করেছেন আপনার অন্ধ বিশ্বাস তার মৃত্যুর কারণ কি বলছো মা স্ত্রীর ওপর দেবীত্ব আরোপ করে তার বুকে পাথর চাপা দিয়েছেন আপনি ও কথা বলো না
Oh, those pigeons. The pigeons were also in Jalsajar.
কি স্বার্থ সিদ্ধি হয়েছে জানি না তবে তার জীবন নষ্ট হতে চলেছে
This is how it always had to end for these saints. The only way to canonize them is through their passing.
রাক্ষসী আমার ছেলেটাকে খেয়ে নিল গো।
দাও দাও শিখি দাও আমরা যাবো যে দাও
কোথায় যাব দয়া
It's too late.
পালিয়ে যাবো
It's too late.
নইলে
You've been locked in the lie too long.
এরা আমি মেরে ফেলবে
Oh, beautiful. Wow. Yeah, I think this had a beautiful performance by Sharmila Tagore. Like I said, this would be a good companion piece to Jalsajar. This would be a good companion piece to The Passion of Joan of Arc. I really think that her performance is comparable to Falconettes, a similar space of passion, of trial, exhaustion, of a wonderfully preserved kind of humanity or tenderness towards humankind. I don't think this was for me. I think this was like this is one of those elements that I think I kind of wrestle with aspects of Rai's filmography that I've seen, at least, that at times he wants to play a wonderful technician, but I also feel the impulse of him, of like the impulse towards realism, of telling as bare and as serious a story as possible, as simple a story as possible. And I think that this and Jalsajar kind of like balance on the two opposing ends of those. While there are like cinematic flourishes in this, I think this is a more simply told story. And while Jalsajar is also a simple story, but it has these technical flourishes, these moments of brilliance. I think the way that Roy is presented in that movie is so specific to his character, the way that he always has his back turned, the way that he's always kind of standoffish, and the musical sequences in that movie are just so brilliant and show such an affinity towards the craft of filmmaking. And while I'm not saying this doesn't display craft, I think it is a film that is showcasing the elements of simplicity and Rai's storytelling. So while I prefer Jalsajar, I think that... Hey, editing Hank here to say I recorded this over 6 months ago, and in the intervening time, I've changed my mind. I definitely prefer Devi now. So while I prefer Jalsajar, I think that both are really effective in telling the two sides of a similar story. And I actually think this is like a beautifully kind of feminine counterpart to the masculine aspects of Jalsajar, and also showcasing like a youthful aspect in comparison to the elderly parts of Jalsajar. I think you should watch them together if you get the chance. If you've seen Devi though already, let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for more old, obscure, and art house films. And until next time, keep watching good movies.